Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast. My name is Sami Hajjasad, and with me as always is my good friend and fellow automotive journalist, Benjamin Hunting. Say hi to the people, Ben.
Greetings, human listeners.
Greetings to everyone. If this is the first time you're listening to our podcast, thank you for trying something new. I will reiterate, Ben and I are a pair of automotive journalists, but more important than that, we're really good friends. Right, Ben?
Friendship is an important thing.
It's more important than so many other things in this world, like climate change.
Okay.
I just felt like throwing that out there. Is that okay?
I can't stop you from saying whatever pops into your head.
Ben he is I would call him a very accomplished writer, but more than that, you can find his work all over the internet. Ben, do it.
Sammy's upset about climate change right now because his skies are orange. Is that correct, Sami?
Yeah, they were more orange yesterday than they are today.
Yeah, that's what happens. Canada's on fire and we're in Canada, so.
And it smells like a campfire outside.
It didn't really smell like a campfire here when it happened. It smelled like a house fire. You know that subtle difference?
I don't know. I have never been close enough to a house fire.
Like one means you're going to get some s'mores and the other one means you're going to meet an insurance adjuster. Those are the two primary differences. I
haven't had the pleasure of learning about that difference, but it means that I'm very concerned for the health of my family because it's really smoky out there. It's really awful air quality.
It's bad news.
But you know what's not bad news? The places you can find Ben's work. Come on, plug something, Ben.
Let's go with Motor Trend and Haggerty. How about that?
And you can find my work at autotrader.ca and driving.ca, as well as driving.ca's YouTube channel. You're going to see my work over there. You're going to see my pretty little face. You're going to see me saying some things about cars. It's a good time.
Sometimes they just blur your face, don't they?
Yeah.
Was there a weird lawsuit about that? Like you borrowed your face from someone else who didn't get permission. They had to take a bunch of videos down. It was really complicated.
I didn't sign the disclosure that they wanted about being able to train their AI models with my face and my facial expressions, because apparently I have very unique facial expressions.
It's a 100% human podcast, by the way. I just want to get that out there. Completely human. We don't blur anyone's face.
I would say more than 100%. I would say
more human than human. That's our motto.
I would say that it's like 101 or 2%. Like there's a little bit more human.
Running hot.
That's what makes the show so sustainable.
That's like that line in Hunt for Red October where Connery's like, "Bring me up to 104% on the reactor."
Yes.
Engineering says it is possible but not advisable.
You watch, I forgot how often you watch The Hunt for Red October.
I can't get enough of it, honestly. So it's
like once a week for you.
This has nothing to do with cars, but you know how there's those movies that whenever I don't really have cable or anything like that. So when I don't really channel surf, but when I'm at someone else's house or at a hotel or whatever, there's always those movies that if you see one on, that's what you're doing for the next 2 hours. Like it just cancels the rest of your plans. So if I'm flipping around and Hunt for Red October is on, I'm going to be watching Hunt for Red October. Do you have a movie like that?
I feel like I'm caught more often than not watching things that, like, because you're channel surfing on a hotel or whatever, and it's usually like something like Rush Hour or any Jackie Chan movie apparently on TBS. Do you remember that?
If you're lucky to see a Jackie Chan movie on cable, that's a great day.
But when you're on the airplane and Space Jam is there, or Ocean's 11 is there, or Jurassic Park 1 is there, I'm in. I'm all in.
You're talking about the original Ocean's 11, right? With Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr.
No. Dean. I'm talking George Clooney and that other guy, Brad Pitt.
That other guy. Yeah, okay.
That guy that people say I look like, Brad Pitt.
You're always getting mistaken for him. In fact, that's actually why they had to blur your face.
That's true.
Brad Pitt's estate reached out.
Takedown notice to driving.ca.
Take that face off that car review.
Have you watched the new Transformers? The latest the reboot of Transformers?
Absolutely not.
You should watch some Transformers. It's very hard to watch Transformers.
It is, especially when you don't have cable.
What about Pacific Rim?
What do you mean? There's a Pacific Rim? What I don't understand.
There's a movie called Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I love that movie, but what does that have to do with Transformers?
Have you seen that lately?
No, not lately. I love it so much. We're getting really far from what we're talking about on this podcast, Sami. Maybe we should circle back to cars. I know Transformers are sort of about cars.
Well, the robots in disguise
They
as cars.
It's more than meets the eye. Let's just leave it at that.
Until they became beasties, or whatever they were called then.
Yeah, I don't like to anthropomorphize my robots.
I loved Beasties and Beast Wars. If we could have a Beasties podcast, I would be all in.
I'm out.
Unlike this current podcast, which apparently I'm not all in on.
So I drove a car that is as expensive as a Transformer would be if you could buy a Transformer.
Okay.
And is also powered by Energon cubes, I guess. If we want to take that as a stand-in for electricity, which I think it was on the TV show. Am I wrong?
Energon? Yeah, I guess it was their energy.
Because they would go to a dam and they would just pull out cubes of Energon, from what I remember.
Well, every time I visited a dam, I was always looking for those cubes.
And I never saw them, and I never handled them, which is probably for the best. But
yes, this car that you've been driving is loaded with Energon.
I'm speaking, of course, about the 2026 Lotus Eletre, or Eletre.
You're speaking, of course, about it. Cannot be mistaken for any other vehicle we have talked about ever in our history.
I'm starting to realize that maybe the pronunciation is Eletre because there used to be a car called the Lotus Elite, and they're trying to do like a heritage thing.
Elite? There was a car called the Lotus Elite?
A long time ago, yes.
Or Elise. I know Elise. Everything now starts with an E at Lotus.
Everything does start with an E, Sammy. That is tautologically correct.
Oh, there is an Elite, 1974, 1982.
We're real punchy on the podcast today, and I apologize in advance. It's just that kind of day. We got wildfires. We got all sorts of weird talk about Hunt for Red October. One ping only. And now we're talking about the Lotus Eletre, or Eletre, as they call it here in Quebec. This is the first SUV that Lotus has ever made. Sammy, it's also the first SUV. It's also the first SUV. The first Lotus I ever drove.
You've never driven a Lotus 7 before?
Have you?
Or a Caterham 7?
Have you?
No, of course not.
Me neither. I've seen them driven.
I've seen them driven too by people who are very terrified about something going wrong.
There's a list of car companies whose vehicles I've never driven. Are you ready for this list?
Yeah, it's not Lotus anymore.
Not Lotus anymore. That's off of there. Maserati.
No way. I've driven like 3 Maserati. All 3 of the Maserati.
Do you know why I've never driven a Maserati?
Why?
Because every time I have booked a Maserati, just before I went to pick it up, it has broken.
This is like your Genesis G90 white whale.
Except it's like multiple Maseratis. It doesn't matter. If I book a Maserati from the press fleet, guaranteed it's going to have an accident or some type of check engine light or a fire or something that like removes it from service forever.
Okay, so you got that one in the bag. What's the other one?
That's it. I'd never driven a Maserati.
I have gone on launch programs with Maserati. Could you believe that?
Yeah, I know you've done everything cool, and I haven't. So I mean, we could talk about that.
Nothing broke on those ones.
Are you sure?
Yeah, only my heart.
Weren't you being followed by a team of Maserati technicians? I hear that's the most effective form of Maserati ownership.
I think you're confusing Maserati for Alfa Romeo.
I don't think so. I think I don't think the apple falls far from that tree.
Or Stellantis in general, which is, I guess, Maserati and Alfa Romeo. Now
I think that's the only North American presenting brand that I haven't sat and driven, sadly.
Tell me about this Lotus. So what was it like the thing about Lotus is that it is a British car company.
It was a British car company.
And then was a British car company, yes. And is now, I think, owned by a Chinese car company.
Yeah, it's owned by Geely. And most people will know Geely as making electric cars. And that's kind of why the Eletre exists, because Lotus itself had a reputation for building very lightweight sports cars. In fact, Colin Chapman, who was the founder of Lotus, had that famous saying of simplify and add lightness, basically. Which
did not translate to anything Geely understood. Is that correct?
Well, the Eletre weighs 2.6 tons. And I say tons in the Canadian sense. It's 2,600.
Holy moly.
2,600 kilograms. It's just under 6,000 pounds. Not only is it heavy, but it's heavier than like the entire starting grid at your local Lotus Club's track day. It's every single vehicle could fit into the mass of this one SUV. But on the other side of that equation is the version that I drove, the Carbon, that has 900 horsepower. And
I mean, if you're gonna make something heavy, at least get the power to make it a nice power to weight ratio.
I want to put that in context, Sammy, because there are 3 other versions, depending on where you live. There are 3 other versions of the Eletre. There is the base model, and then there's something, I think it's called the Touring or the Sport. I can't remember. And that has 600 horsepower. And then there's a version called the R or Sport R. Again, depends where you live. And that has the 900. And then there's the Carbon, which is basically a Sport R with everything on top of it. Now, if you live in the United States, you can only get the Carbon. And if you live in the US, you will be paying a 100% tariff on the Lotus because it's built in China.
Oof.
So I don't know how that's folded into the pricing. The base model in Canada, we were quoted prices in US dollars. And
very useful.
Back before these tariffs went into effect, Lotus was planning to bring all of these vehicles, all trim levels, to the US as well, where it was starting around like 120 grand, and going up to the Carbon's price was just 232, including transport and destination and all that stuff.
So you're saying it's not a budget-oriented car, is what you're telling me?
Not anymore. Canada still has all of the different options available, but I happen to drive the one that is available in the US, the exclusive to the US version. But I want to point out that 900 horsepower, if you look at every other super SUV on the market right now, it dwarfs them in terms of output. I think the closest is the Purosangue. How do you say that? From Ferrari?
Okay.
I think that has 750 horsepower from a 12-cylinder engine. And then I think the Urus is like just under 700 or something. And then you have the Aston Martin DBX, and then it gets down to like Cayenne S and that kind of thing, Bentayga Speed and all that stuff.
Okay.
But it's really interesting that Lotus is pretty much the only hyper luxury hyper SUV that's available. And it happens to be the most powerful. Hyper luxury, hyper SUV EV that's available. And it's the most powerful. So they knew that they were going into a situation where I think going with an internal combustion engine might have been the wrong call. So instead, and this is how I've been thinking about it, I drove it last week, so I had the chance to kind of
you're saying that if Lotus had come into this world as it is now, like a Geely company with a combustion powertrain SUV, they would just be compared to all of these established brands.
Yeah,
that would have already been. They already have their market. They already know what they're doing, and it's really hard to like look Lamborghini eye to eye and be like, "We've got something here."
Or not only that, but they would also be compared to other Lotuses, right? Because every other Lotus right now is internal combustion that's currently available. They have a supercar that's on the way that's going to be EV, but instead they've created something that they wanted to. When I spoke to the CEO, Max Trentini, CEO of Lotus Americas, about why they decided to do this. And he's like, look, we can't get around the weight of this vehicle. You know, battery powered vehicles, they have a hard cap because of energy density. That's all we can do. So instead they tried to take the vehicle into a different context so it could be evaluated on its own merits rather than comparing it to a 2-seat sports car. I think the EV aspect helps them do that. And they tried to make Lotus DNA a part of the package. Now that sounds a lot like marketing.
Yeah, what does Lotus DNA a part of the package mean?
For them,
scope of an EV, because if you're going to ask me what Lotus DNA was, it was lightweight car, right?
Yeah, but also it was the feeling behind the wheel. It was what the lightweight stuff gives you, right? So I think that if you had an ICE, like a twin turbo V8 or something, because again, Lotus doesn't really make their own engines either.
No, usually they get them from Toyota.
They have traditionally done that. So by going with this in-house Geely platform,
which is one of the funniest things that Toyota's not really, I mean, when you're looking at performance, Toyota engines are not exactly the woohoo, but they made it work, I suppose. Yeah.
With going with this Geely platform, it lets them define what they think a Lotus experience is. And I also think that by avoiding a twin turbo V8 or a V12 or whatever, you also avoid the idea of a vehicle that is going to brute force its way through whatever situation you put in front of it. Like the experience is going to be different versus those other competitors. So you have a chance, you have a fighting chance. And the Lotus built this vehicle because they had customers in a sense asking for it, saying like, look, I want to buy a Lotus, but I don't want to leave my family behind. You know, like I need something else in the driveway that I can drive when I'm not just going out on weekends. And I think they were tired of seeing those customers going to a competitor and buying something from them.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that there was demand for this vehicle, but Lotus felt there was a niche that they could fill and only they could fill. And in a way, they're right, because they're kind of the only electric SUV at this level. I asked them how they felt about companies like Lucid with the Gravity.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe that, but the Gravity is kind of big. Like it's a.
I assure you that the Eletre
car,
is.
Right?
I assure you the Eletre is also quite big.
Really? I'm looking at pictures of the Eletre, and it doesn't look. It looks more like a SUV coupe in terms of.
It's as big or bigger than an Urus.
Okay.
No question.
Yeah.
But it
hides it well with design. You can talk about. I think we should talk about that later. But yeah,
the Lotus answer to that question was they don't consider Lucid whatsoever. It's not something they think about. And I think if you look at the pricing, that makes sense.
Okay, why?
They're not even close.
Is Gravity not expensive?
Is Gravity not $230,000 US?
If there was a bajillion horsepower one, I would imagine.
No, it's not even close to that price.
Wow.
So in any case, I came to the vehicle with an open mind. Look,
very rare for you. No, I'm joking.
These SUVs are a fact of life now because companies are looking for volume so they can stay alive. And there's rumors that Lotus is actually planning to build a sports car and a sedan that are based on the same platform that the Eletre is using. Okay. So this is kind of their best foot forward in building a family of vehicles, electric vehicles, around this particular model. I can tell you that it is outrageously fast. I could not get the launch control system to work. I think it's because there was a problem with the only problem I experienced with the vehicle was the tire sensors for inflation on one side of the vehicle were showing as not working, but I was assured that they were. It was just a problem with the configuration. So I think that's why it would not let me turn off traction control completely to do the launch control. You do not need launch control with 900 horsepower. It does 60 in less than 3 seconds, but it does the whole Chevy Corvette thing where it says 2.95.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where it's like skin of its teeth kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is absurdly fast. I said this to you when on the day I was driving it, but I had my cell phone in a little cubby underneath the dashboard. And one of the times that I launched it, my cell phone flew through the air. It didn't slide along the console. It flew through the air and hit the back seat rest and slammed down onto the ground because of how violent the launches are. It's so powerful that on twisty roads, I was able to break the rear wheels free in an all-wheel drive electric vehicle.
No way. And
feel it squirm and slide a little bit. That is, you have to be careful when you're driving it because it has that much grunt. It is a wild experience. But
do you like that kind of like raw, loose kind of experience?
It's not raw and loose. That's not the impression I'm giving. I want to say, I want to tell you that you can break the tires free.
Feral feeling.
It's not feral. It's very, very refined and competent. Just you can do that if you want to, in the same way that you could like do a burnout in a car because you're abusing it kind of deal. The real impression this vehicle left was, and I think this is what they meant when they were talking about Lotus DNA. You know, you always hear the cliche about how like, oh, this car shrinks around you and you don't feel how heavy it is. That's not necessarily true with the Eletre. But it did at least shrink wrap the car and bring it to maybe a more manageable proportion where you always know the weight is there, but the weight isn't having an adverse effect on cornering or handling. I was on some very, very tight roads. It's a just north of Montreal. There's a road that a friend of mine used to use to tune his Miata for the track, and we would go up there every once in a while. And there's a lot of elevation changes through corners, and the car hustled, or the truck, I guess I should say, hustled itself really well through that. You could get ahead of yourself with braking if you really overcooked things. But aside from that, I never really felt like I was on the edge of control. I never really felt like I was touching the limits of the vehicle. And that surprised me because a lot of the times where I've driven something like an Aston Martin DBX, for example, it does feel rougher and more raw and more visceral in terms of experience. And I think that's the internal combustion engine is playing a big part there. And so skipping over that, it gives the Eletre something totally different in terms of personality.
I want to do an apples to oranges comparison if possible, because I don't think any of us really understand what it's like to have a 900 horsepower super SUV on the go. I mean, I've driven some other ones that have lots of horsepower, 600 horsepower. That's Defender Octa and Range Rover Sport SV and like BMW X5M. Are those like seriously a tier below this in terms of performance and handling? And
1,000%.
That's unbelievable. I don't know how to like fathom it. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna have to do a little bit more work for me here.
Well, have you driven the Hellcat Demon?
No, not the Demon.
So it's a similar step up in terms of acceleration, except since you have all-wheel drive and electric power, you don't have all the drama that goes with like a perfect launch on a rear-wheel drive drag car. You know?
Okay. I get that. I've been in a Hellcat and a what is it called? Trackhawk, right?
Yeah. So imagine something way quicker than those.
That's hard to believe. Truly, it is. It's so weird.
And not just quicker, but like repeatedly quicker. You know, like easy to achieve. There's no skill required to achieve the speed. And I think that's with these kinds of vehicles, like
there's not a lot of skill in other super SUVs because they're all like dual clutch transmissions.
No, but what I'm saying is like in an internal combustion engine, you have to, if you're launching it at a drag strip, you have to hit the right RPM and you have to make sure you hook up and whatnot. And traction control is much more limited as to what you can achieve with electrics. But 900 horsepower is just like 700 horsepower or 600 horsepower or 500 horsepower. It's a party trick that you get tired of. It's not something that's going to inform your experience of this vehicle on a daily basis because you'll terrify yourself. You'll either be terrified or just get bored of it. You know,
with that in mind, then, if you get bored of it or it's a party trick, what is left over for you to enjoy? So you did mention that it shrink wraps a little bit. The performance that performance envelope seems to be able to smooth over a little bit of the weight.
Yeah, it drives very well. It drives surprisingly well for a vehicle of its size. Within the context of super SUVs and the limited number that I've driven, it's probably the best handler, no question.
Wow.
But like that's a big asterisk there. You know, realistically, this vehicle is very comfortable. On a daily basis, you're going to enjoy it. It has about 280 miles of range, which is decent. It charges in 20 minutes from 10 to 80%. It has 350 kilowatt, although Lotus says it'll really do 400 kilowatt at a charging station if you can find it. And it's the interior is quite nice. I was really surprised to see for the first time an exotic car company that had good graphics on its infotainment system. Normally they're garbage.
Yeah.
They're just like
it's
the
like
worst.
The last thing they thought about.
Yeah. It's like feels like from 6 or 7 years ago. So you get into the Lotus and it looks really great. Everything looks great. The menus make sense. Another thing that surprised me in terms of me liking it was instead of having a traditional gauge cluster, it has like a horizontal readout in front of you that stretches a little bit. Instead of being rectangular, it's like a ribbon and it's quite narrow. And then most of the information you need is on the HUD. So instead of doing what Toyota does and pushing the gauge cluster all the way to the windshield, which is super annoying, and I don't like that, everything I needed was right in front of my eyes, and then everything else was directly in front of my face on the HUD. And
I'm looking at a picture of this ribbon.
It was really well done. It's the first time I think I've seen an alternative gauge cluster that didn't make me want to, pierce my eyes and run screaming.
Yeah, I mean, I think about run screaming. I feel the same way. It reminds me a little bit of like, when the MacBook Pro had that like touch bar on the top of its like above its
don't talk to me about Mac software.
But they had like this like OLED display that I think they all broke or something like that. But like it's slim, it's like integrated, it looks really crafty. I like that. Clever.
So it's I think more usable day to day than some of the SUVs I've driven in this price range and power level. The brakes are a bit touchy at low speeds when you're crawling through traffic. I think they need to work on tuning the difference between regen and actual braking.
Yeah.
The and what else? Was there anything else that kind of
does this have weird mirrors?
It doesn't have weird mirrors, but it has these cameras on the side fenders. You'll probably see it. There's like 24 sensors. There's a whole sensory package that comes with it for its advanced driving, like its whole like limited self-driving. Lotus says they want it could technically qualify for level 4 autonomy if that were legal. No one wants that. I don't want that, but it's baked into this car. So that's all there. The back seat is surprisingly big. The trunk is okay. There is a front.
Are the back seats as like aggressively bolstered as the front ones are?
No, much more open. And there's a frunk that is like pretty useless. You're not going to use it for anything. But I guess I'm glad it's there. You know, I like frunks more than a space you can't access at the front of the car.
Is it good for like a gym bag?
A small gym bag? Let me take a look. I actually took a picture of it because I wanted to remember it forever, Sammy. I'm gonna load it up here
because I always think about this because I remember I think Jaguar I-Type.
Yeah, you could put a small gym bag in there.
I think Jaguar. I remember who was the designer?
It's a tiered thing. It looks a little bit like a bench seat for a baby. You could put like a baby in there and have it watch whatever's happening, like you're at Little League or something.
I'm saying this because I remember like Ian Callum was like showing me the I-Type one time with the frunk like that open, and he was like, you can put some wine bottles in there, and I'm like, doesn't this thing make like 300 and something? Doesn't it do like 0 to 60 in 3 seconds or 4 seconds? You're gonna shatter those things in an instant.
Yeah, anything that rolls around doesn't go in the trunk. That's just
now. Listen, I will be blunt. I have broken so many bottles in the trunk of my FRS because I forget that they're loosely rolling around back there.
Why are you buying so many bottles, man?
This is a different time.
Why are you forgetting them? What's the link between those? What's the link there?
Once you start driving a car that's fun to drive, you forget about all the other like practical elements in your life, and you're like, I can slide this thing into my parking spot, and then you're just like bang, psh, and I'm like, oh no.
The vehicle's suspension too. It's an air suspension.
It's got to be for something this big, right? Like,
so it has multiple drive modes. There's like a track mode that like a wing pops up in the back. It has little louvers at the front grille, so like it can open for cooling or close for efficiency. And then when you select trail mode, it rises up slowly in the front and it creaks a little bit, kind of like you're in an old wooden sailing ship.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. The suspension
is it like a Range Rover? Every time you get out of a Range Rover,
no, it doesn't make all those crazy noises like a Range Rover does. Like a Range Rover acts like the Moonlander when you get out of it, like it's off gassing and
yeah, I hate it. It sounds like it's like
it can be really startling if you're not expecting it.
It sounds like a bus. It's insane.
So the suspension, though, the tune is on the harsher side in regular driving, not in the sense that it jostles you, but it will be a bit louder than maybe like a Rolls Royce would be or a Bentley would be.
Okay.
And I think that's the compromise you're going to have for the litheness of its handling.
Okay.
I also want to point out, I mentioned there are like 3 different, base, touring, and then sport, and then carbon, which is built on Sport R, I guess. They all technically have the same drivetrain. I think it's a 112 kilowatt hour battery, but the carbon and the Sport R have a larger rear motor that gives it the extra power.
Interesting. Can you tell me more? So they're not symmetrical, the front and rear.
No, I don't think many performance vehicles are.
Yeah.
I think these days you're starting to see real differences. And also, I mean, if you look at BMW, they're starting to go with like brushless motors versus brush and whatnot, different designs, because they're able to declutch them more easily, I think. And take them out of the equation when you're just cruising. So it's kind of like we're back to the power on demand days of all-wheel drive systems where you didn't really need the traction. So they didn't give it to you until you were stuck.
Okay, interesting. So to you, it's like one of the most original super SUVs.
I don't know if I'd say it's original, but it is different.
But there's almost nothing else quite like this, right? Like the other ones that have insane amounts of horsepower, a lot of trucks, like Hummer. Isn't there a Hummer with a bajillion horsepower?
Absolutely no comparison.
Yeah.
The Hummer weighs 3,000 pounds more than this does.
It's insane to believe that, right? Like that is an unbelievable difference. we're in this whole new world, and Lotus is trying to be the first one.
I mean, some of us are in this world. Neither you nor I.
No, but I mean, sometimes these automakers are the first to, are these like luxury automakers try to push the conversation towards these kinds of things.
I will say, at 232,000, it's almost half the price of a Ferrari Purosangue.
Yeah,
like that's wild.
Do you think it has the presence of a Ferrari? I mean, the Ferraris and Lamborghinis gain that instant badge recognition. They're
I don't think that like the Lotus badge has the same recognition, but I also
Right.
don't think anyone cares about a Ferrari SUV. And I
but
think
the exterior design of this Eletre is kind of
it's a good looking vehicle. I also don't think the Lamborghini has a positive connotation with its. I think that like, I don't know.
Man, I love Lambos right now. I think
No.
those are
I'm
crazy
just
as
talking
fuck.
about the Urus.
Oh yeah, the Urus.
I feel like the Urus has become broified in a way that
Yeah.
other Lamborghinis haven't.
It's like the crypto. It's like the sign that I made it big on crypto.
So
Like-
I feel like that's unfortunate for the brand. But I do think that the Ferrari SUV is somewhat anonymous looking.
Okay.
And I'm not super into it. The DBX it looks like a Aston Martin.
Yeah.
It's hard to say whether the Eletre looks like a Lotus. I mean, there's Lotus elements in it, but it like as a cohesive package, it kind of stands on its own. That's also probably for the best, especially if they're going to be building out a family of cars based around it.
Well, I think it's imperative that they build a family of vehicles because it feels like right now it's like a new generation of Lotus. It's not the same Lotus we recall. Especially when it comes to things like the Elise and the what's the other one I really like?
The Exige.
Exige. And
So-
then there's that other one. What's the other one?
I don't know.
Smaller one. I'm gonna find it.
I'm going to say the real problem for Lotus is the 100% tariff on Chinese-built vehicles. If they're going to go ahead with a family based on the Eletre, then they're going to be up against that because those vehicles are going to be built in China by Geely.
Mhm.
So it becomes a question of, is there a market outside the United States for that family?
Right. That's tough.
In any case, that's kind of all I had to say about this vehicle. I'm a little sad that my first Lotus was this vehicle and not one of the Elises that I've always,
Yeah.
admired. from
Evora
afar.
was the one that I was thinking of.
I've never driven an Evora, obviously.
Yeah.
But in any case, it was an interesting experience. I did not expect it to go as well and make as positive of an impression as it did.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I mean, the what's impressive here is that they didn't just stick the badge on something that was not interesting. And I think Lotus has always made interesting cars, and this at least continues that tradition, if in a totally different path than the other ones used to. And that's what happens when you go electric, though. Weight is added. Like it's a trade-off that seems to be inevitable right now.
So what did you drive?
I drove a 2026 Ford Bronco Sport. Listeners of this podcast will probably remember that I used to have a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Apathetic response to the Bronco Sport when it was first introduced. I used to think, and I maybe I still do, that Ford was filling up its portfolio with cars it didn't need to. Because I found the Ford Escape to have a reputation that was really positive. It offered a lot of different drivetrains. It was efficient. It was affordable. It was practical. And then when I saw that the Bronco Sport was just basically a boxy version of an Escape, I wondered why would they make that decision?
Okay.
Especially when the Bronco Sport can be a little bit more expensive too.
I need to stop you right there.
Oh no.
I don't think that the Bronco Sport is just a boxy Escape. I think
Yeah.
you're really, really gliding over what this vehicle actually is.
And I think now I finally got it. I think I finally got it.
No, but even
because-
from the start, this was a retro themed.
I meant
affordable?
technically. I think like the platform and the engine, which make up a lot of the characteristics of some of these cars.
Sure, parts of the platform and the engine, but like the package itself, it was intended to be, the ultimate soft roader. Plus, they made the Badlands version, which had 240 horsepower and, the HOSS suspension upgrade and all that stuff. But I think most importantly, this was a big heritage play. This is a big retro play. And that alone sets it apart from the Escape, which is a good vehicle, but is a blob that looks like all the other blobs at the same price point.
Right. So in my experience, in my perspective, when the Bronco Sport came out, I saw it as Ford was clearly shifting away from the Escape, which was a solid competitor to the rest of the compact car segment. And now I get it. I think I totally understand it. It is what you just explained. It is a different car. It has personality in a way that a lot of other compact crossovers do not have. And it does it without the... I sound so hypocritical now. All of these other compact crossovers come with these really dopey off-road packages that don't really they don't do anything to the car. They don't do anything to the personality of the car. They feel so lame, they feel so tacky. And the Bronco Sport does not feel like that, even though it could be, distilled as a an off-road package compact crossover.
I also want to point out that the Bronco Sport is available in 3 actual colors.
Yeah, it's
Orange Fury, Velocity Blue, and Ruby Red.
So in particular, I drove a slate. I think slate gray is the color of it, or space gray.
Blue Urns. There's a space white metallic, and there's a
space
carbon...
white. Yeah, space white metallic.
Okay.
It looked gray to me, which is an extra cost paint finish, which I think is kind of silly because you're spending more money on a non-color. It was not the top end Badlands model. Instead, I had a Big Bend trim, which was loaded with all kinds of...
That's the base model.
Packages. Yeah. All kinds of packages. Convenience package, black diamond package, cool bronze. They're called Sinister bronze painted wheels.
What does black diamond mean?
I think it has... I think it relates to ski hills, maybe?
Okay. I'm listening.
Isn't a black diamond a rating for a ski hill?
This is
for how challenging... For how challenging? Maybe I'm mistaken.
I'm trying to build your vehicle now, and there's a section called discount package, and I expand it, and it says discount bronze plus black diamond offer.
I have package. That. I think when you combine the two packages,
it's a discount applied to those two packages. Yet it's presented as some kind of option. That's so strange. So yeah, black diamond is off road. It gives you bumper stuff, recovery hooks, tow package, skid plates, and those wheels that you got. And then it deletes the tire inflator and sealant kit, and it deletes your overhead console with sunglasses storage for some reason.
Yeah.
And then you get your bronze wheels.
You get those. Woohoo! I also had auxiliary switches. They weren't connected to anything, but they made a very tactile, lovely click whenever I clicked inside them. I have to say, there are so many adorable parts about this car. The brush guard, so aggro. It's so cool. I have tie downs on the front fenders, which have a weight limit to them. I have rear tow hooks or recovery hooks as well. So it makes it look like this car would be really easy to mount a canoe on or a kayak. I also noted that the exterior screws on some of those features were stamped with Bronco, the text Bronco, which is a detail that I don't think you would find on other cars, on other compact crossovers. I don't think I'm seeing exterior trim bits of the RAV4, things as small as a screw.
They say Wilderness on them for Subaru, for example?
Yeah,
a Wilderness not. Screw.
Can you imagine the font on that if they had to? And I was just starting to become really more comfortable with this because we've seen so many off-road trims. And I'm starting to see this being it's not an off-road trim. It is an off-road vehicle. It presents itself as an off-road vehicle from the get-go. It doesn't need a trim package to do that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if you really want to do real off-roading, you probably want the Badlands.
Yes, I think the Badlands comes with a different all-wheel drive system and suspension setup. Mine did have Continental all-terrain tires, which was kind of impressive. And I want to talk a little bit about the powertrain. It's got a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes 180 horsepower
Didn't it used to come with a 3-cylinder?
Yeah, I remember that. This is not a 3-cylinder. I got to make sure. This is not a 3-cylinder.
I remember when they launched, it was a 3-cylinder, and the only 4-cylinder was the Badlands.
The 1.5 Dragon B is a turbo 3. Actually, I'm mistaken. Yes. Yeah. I will say
it's called the Dragon B.
Yeah, man.
That sounds like what you would call like a cargo rocket.
It is a 3-cylinder. I'm so sorry that I mistook that. But I will say that it has it might be gearing, but it has a lot of like pep down low. The moment you put your foot into it, it really like leaps forward. It's both a good thing and a bad thing. That responsiveness is really appreciated for a car with seemingly just 180 horsepower, but it means like in stop and go traffic, the car can get kind of like you're getting kind of seasick here. On the go, though, driving it and trying to get up to speed on the highway, it works. There's a little bit of there's a little bit too much engine and wind noise, I think, at higher speeds. But I think that has a lot to do with just the overall exterior like design and dimension.
Did you have the fender tow hooks deployed?
Apparently, you know what? They don't like stay up. They don't stay up. I don't know if that
you should see your doctor.
Oh yes, thank you, Ben. Very good work there. It's mated with an I gotta make sure I got this 8-speed automatic transmission. Works pretty nicely. Interestingly enough, there are no paddle shifters. There's no way to control the transmission in a like specific way. There's an low range, basically L on the gear selector, but I don't think that's like what you think of in a low range, like 4-wheel low kind of setting.
That Dodge Ram 2500 that I had, it was the same thing. You could just shift to like drive, and then if you could limit the gears like with buttons. But there was no low or anything traditional like that.
So I don't have that either. There are drive modes, including like a slippery conditions mode and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But I was really surprised that it didn't have, for a car that kind of like wants to present itself as an off-road vehicle. I think that having a little bit more control of your gears would go a long way. I kept looking at it and saying to myself that it's surprising to me that there are a couple of features that I'm missing. It didn't have dual zone climate control, for example. It didn't have, which really like surprised me given the price of this thing. In Canada, it costs $50,000, which is a lot for a compact crossover.
So your base model was $50,000.
Yeah, with all the features it had about $9,000 in extra features.
Okay. It starts at about 32 in the US.
And then the model that I built for myself, I tried to get it as close as I could, is about, I think, 40,000 US.
So that would be 2 more than the Badlands, which is 38.
And I think it would be a good idea to get a Badlands. I mean, based on how much I really enjoyed the overall character of this car now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm trying to look at the build sheet of the Badlands to see really what options it offers. I mean,
you wouldn't get that brush guard. I mean, the brush guard is such a silly thing to add to the car.
You know, like if you're looking at so you're saying that basically you built a base tier Bronco that is more expensive than the top tier, but doesn't have the off-road specific gear that you can get with the top tier. So looking at the top tier, it seems like the only real package you can get for it is this Sasquatch package, which adds
the suspension,
position sensitive dampers.
Yeah,
it says it has this Haas 3.0 off-road suspension. I thought that was, if you look
standard?
at just because I'm going to go back to the build thing here, and if you look at power and handling, it says standard Haas 2.0. Okay. So there's a 3.0 version. I don't know what that gives you, but that's what you're getting from Sasquatch. And I think you get some other stuff where there's some appearance stuff that goes with it, so everyone knows you have the Sasquatch, like different bumpers. There's fender flares too to kind of clear the tires and whatnot. But it's not a huge deal. Like that's $2,400. There's that same bronze package that you had, and then there's some graphics that you can buy. There's really not anything else. So like, yeah, definitely if you think you're gonna go off road, go for the Badlands. There's a tech package.
In particular, that Badlands is what separates this Bronco Sport from other compact crossovers.
Yeah, right? For sure. But I don't know. Some of the other gear you got is kind of a separating point too.
Yeah, no, I mean it looked sharp. The cabin was okay. Like I said, it's missing a few kind of key features and felt a tiny bit plastic here and there. But the infotainment system worked. I didn't love the gauge cluster. It reminded me of how you just described some of those ones that made you want to. What did you say?
Gouge my eyes and run screaming.
Yeah, it was a kind of like simple gauge cluster, despite it being a digital one. There wasn't a lot I could change with it. And I didn't see the point of having that kind of screen to be limited in terms of what I can do with it. You know, the ones that you can put like a full map display there and then leave your infotainment system for media, I appreciate that kind of customization. I appreciate
you're almost talking about Android Auto at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that there was more to do with that screen. It just seems to have a bunch of numbers go up and down. It just isn't enough. I think it's not. We had gauges that did that, and there was nothing wrong with that.
So full disclosure, my dad has a Badlands.
A Badlands?
Yes. Okay. He does not go off-roading, but it presented itself at a local dealership that he's friendly with. And as has happened more than once, he ended up driving it home. He likes it a lot. He drives it quite a bit. He used to daily his full-size pickups, and that's become financially unviable given how expensive gas is these days. So a lot of the time now he's in the Bronco. He came to the Bronco from a Kia Soul that he picked up for like no money and drove for 3 years in the summer. It was his summer daily so that he could, save cash. And he really liked, it was a manual transmission. He really liked it. He thought it was fun. I think the Bronco Sport is like an interesting upgrade from a Kia Soul because it's like one box to another box. The one thing he doesn't like about his Bronco Sport is that it came with the painted steel wheels that everyone fetishizes on the internet.
Yeah.
But he finds ugly.
That's so funny.
So he bought a set of wheels from aftermarket wheels and put them on. And the other thing I wanted to mention about the Bronco Sport is a couple of years ago, I was at the launch of the Lobo, the Maverick Lobo, and they had a Tremor there for us to go on an off-road course, also a Maverick. And I was talking to one of the development engineers, and he said, I mentioned my father had this Badlands, and he said that version of the Bronco Sport, when they go off-roading, and let's say he has to pick from, the big full-size Bronco, the small Bronco, or any of the Ford off-road vehicles they have, he always picks the Badlands because to him, it's much more fun than the big Bronco because it requires actual technical driving. And if you're a decent driver, it's just as capable as the full-size Bronco. And he appreciates the challenge more. So that was a very surprising revelation.
I think that makes sense, though. You want to feel like you're doing something, right?
Yeah, like are we saying this is the Mazda Miata of like soft road vehicles?
Yeah, I used to think, what was the Renegade used to try to be like that? Or
yeah, the Renegade was fun, but I feel like it was not fully executed.
It also looked tippy. Like the proportions of it looked like it could not survive on a trail.
It's a vehicle that like when I see it in the right color, I'm like, oh, why not me? And then I remember, you drove this at the lodge. Why not you?
Do you remember that cabin, that interior, that gear stick? It's
you're not really a Tiger Shark 2 guy, are you?
Well, that's what I kind of like appreciate with this thing. I will say that I found that the cargo space was a tiny bit smaller than I had expected, and they had put this like weird shelf in the trunk of the Bronco Sport.
Yeah, that's a new thing that so many car companies are doing. Have you noticed that?
This is a different new shelf. It actually separated the two. It made it look like I had a lower compartment and a higher compartment at the same time. And then that shelf was like actually hinged, and a top part of it could fold down and become like a table.
Okay.
Have you seen this thing?
No.
I don't know how to describe it any better than that. Apparently it was really a bad way of describing it.
How strong do you think it is?
It had a weight limit listed on it, but
what was that weight limit? 2 sheets of paper.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that weird fold out thing I had in the back of the Ram. Remember, like underneath the seats that felt super flimsy and like served as a shelf, and I just didn't trust myself and didn't use it.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's just this weird thing that I was looking at and I'm like, I don't think this is going to be useful for me. In terms of fuel consumption, I did not have a great time with it because, as you know, I drive mostly in the city these days, and all that extra gear and those all-terrain tires also do not help. It's rated for...
Everywhere you drive in Hamilton's uphill, right?
Yeah, we're always going up the mountain.
It's odd.
It's rated for a pretty modest 27 miles per gallon. I did not get that. I just didn't. It was not even close.
Okay.
I felt bad for how much money I was wasting.
I'm sure our listeners picture you as like some kind of Ferris Bueller's Day Off type of guy who has like
the down all the time.
No. The press car's on like a treadmill inside your garage.
Yeah.
You're just trying to take the miles off.
Yeah. No, it killed me. Like, I was so surprised. At the end of my week, I ended up getting about 22 miles per gallon. Which is not compact crossover. It's not 3-cylinder kind of fuel economy.
That's worse fuel economy than my CTSV.
Yeah, so I was not. But again, like I said, I'm doing a lot of in-town driving, really dense traffic, and
flat out. That's how you drive.
That's just the way I'm driving lately these days. So I would imagine that if you're buying this thing, especially without all the off-road components, you're going to get something closer to that 27 miles per gallon. But
keep those fender hooks in, and you'll do better than Sami.
There you go. I'm starting to fall for this thing. I think it's the more I'm driving it, the more I'm spending time with it, the more I'm understanding that it is an actual car with personality. It drives well. It looks good.
Now, the interesting question for me is, would you take this over, say, a Wilderness Crosstrek?
The Wilderness Crosstrek is the only one that I think has as much personality, but it fails in a very critical point. Its performance, it's like just drivetrain is absolutely uninspired. The turbocharged engine, even though it only makes 180 horsepower, it has serious pep to it. I really like it. 180 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. And as I mentioned, a lot of like responsiveness down low gives a lot of personality.
And that's similar horsepower to the Wilderness as well.
Yeah.
So it's just a different character in the way it's delivered with the more torque.
100%. And sounds different too. Like boxer engines don't exactly sound too cool unless they're made to sound cool. So I think that would be the most impressive comparison. But I think price and size wise, would the Forester Wilderness be a better comparison?
I think the Forester is bigger. I think that the Bronco still counts as subcompact in my mind.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to spend on a subcompact, $40,000. Right?
I mean, maybe it's not subcompact. I don't know. It's tough.
I would consider it a compact,
but I do think the Forester is bigger.
Interesting.
Maybe taller.
Yeah.
I don't know, just like based on visual impression. Anything else that you want to say about the Ford?
Yeah, I think that this is the real off-road trim, cute-ute, right? Like, okay. This is the real. All those other ones that say they've got like X Pro or X Line or XRT.
Shout out X90, Suzuki X90.
Yeah, Rock Creek or oh my goodness,
is there a Rock Creek Rogue? I don't think so. There is?
I'm almost certain there is.
I don't know about that.
And there is, what is the name of the one that I was just about to say and I got interrupted so harshly?
Sorry.
Trail Sport.
Is there a Trail Sport CRV?
Yeah, it's a dud. It's so not worth it.
We did have that TRD off-road RAV4 for a while.
Yeah, now it's a Trails.
Wow.
So all of those are nothing in comparison to this. It's Wilderness and Bronco Sport. I think those
you heard it here. You heard it.
That's the level. That's the playing ground. Like, that's the benchmark that all the other automakers have to meet with their off-road trims.
Sami, if people wanted to get in touch with you and say how wrong you are or how right you are, how would they do that?
You can head on over to our website, unnamedautomotivepodcast.com. And when you get there, there is a contact form. You fill that out. It lands right in our inbox. Me and Ben read every single piece of mail we get. We tend to respond to them. And if we get some good questions or feedback, we love to talk about it on the show as well. If you don't want to go through that rigmarole, just email us. It's benjamin@benjaminhunting.com. Or you can reach out to us on social media. You can probably find us on Instagram whenever Ben is active on there. He's at Hunting Benjamin. I'm at Sami_ha.
Like, yeah, I'm not on Instagram. Don't go find me.
You can also find us on Blue Sky. I'm at Sami_ha. Sami-ha, because I don't think they put underscores in Blue Sky. And Ben is at Hunting Benjamin.
What are you going to be driving next week, Sami?
I'm I don't have anything, actually. I'm going to tell you day of. I'm going to tell you what's going on day of.
Sounds exciting. I'm going to be talking about the Nissan Pathfinder. Not my
Is it a
Pathfinder. Not my
Is it a
Pathfinder.
Rock Creek?
It's not a Rock Creek. It's something
Oh.
else entirely. And it's the new Pathfinder, not the old one.
Very cool. I can't wait.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.